This is a HeadGum podcast.
Flatiron School is an outcomes-focused coding boot camp offering the best in online web development education. Lean on instructors for professional support, move at your own pace through their proven curriculum alongside a thriving community of students, finding purpose through programming. You can learn to code online, but not alone. And Flatiron offers a job guarantee and comprehensive career coaching. Over 98% of grads accept job offers within 180 days of graduating. Flatiron School is focused on increasing access to coding education for women. They're pleased to announce offers to Black Girl Nerds listeners, free access to their online bootcamp prep course, plus $500 off of your first month's tuition towards their online web developer program. So visit flatironschoolnerds.com to start your free course. That's flatironschoolnerds.com. Learn, love, code.
Confabulation is a new convention from the people who brought you 10 great years of WinCon. We're by the fans and for the fans, so there's no celebrity guests or long autograph lines. Just fan-run content about the things you want to talk about. Join us in Pittsburgh, May 25th through 28th, for a weekend of friends and fandom. Get more info at confabcon.com or our Twitter, Tumblr, or Facebook pages at confabcon. Hope to see you in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so this is Tahir Jetter, writer, director, and producer of How to Tell You're a Douchebag. I am very happy to have taken part on the Black Girl Nerds podcast. Thanks.
What's up, y'all? It's producer Will Packer, and you're listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast. Keep it locked right here.
Hey, it's Debbie Kamau Bell, host of the CNN show United Shades of America, and you're listening to Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Hi, I'm Sujata Day. I'm playing Sarah on Insecure, and you're listening to Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Hey, I'm Tommy Davis, and you're listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast. That's right, it exists.
This is Simone Missick, and I am Misty Knight, and you are listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
My name is Reggae Jean Page. I play Chicken George in Roots, and you are listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Hello, I'm Regina Hall, and you are listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
This is Rain Roberts. I'm a creative executive at Lucasfilm, and you're listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
I'm Nisha Green, co-creator of Underground on BGN America, and you're listening to Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Holla boys and girls, it's the BGN. Coming from the Marvel world to the DC friends. All the way from Hollywood to the PCN. She defends everyone from sleazy men. Won't apologize for spitting Shonda rhymes. The space that we make is never colonized. We're talking games and movies and actors. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Yeah, better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Ha. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 106 of the Black Girl Nerds podcast. My name is Jamie, and I am your host. This episode is titled Logan's Soul Glow and Oscar Chat. 2 segments. In our first segment, we invite the one, the only, actor Eriq La Salle. You may have caught him in his latest film this weekend called Logan. And he also talks to us about his work in the literary world, as he's an author, as well as some of his history on the hit television primetime show ER. That segment is hosted by yours truly, Caron and KB. In our second segment, Jacqueline has a one-on-one chat with celebrity interviewer to the stars, Alicia Malone. the two talk about the Oscars, nominees, and predictions on winners. Keep in mind, this was recorded before the Oscars had actually aired, so there may be some information that is discussed that we already know actually happened. So that's our show, 2 fantastic segments with 2 amazing guests. And also we ask that you always make sure to share the love on social media and with your friends and families about the Black Girl Nerds podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and Spotify. Thanks for tuning in to episode 106, Logan Soul Glow and Oscar Chat. Enjoy! Eriq La Salle is an actor, director, writer, producer, and author. He's known for his portrayals of Daryl in the 1988 comedy film Coming to America, and best known as Dr. Peter Benton in the NBC drama series ER. Currently, you can find Eriq La Salle in the new film Logan, which just premiered this past weekend, where he co-stars as a farmer. And La Salle has directed many episodes of various shows, which include Wingman and the Fox series Lucifer, and TNT's Murder in the First, as well as BET's The Quad. Take a listen to our interview with actor Eriq La Salle. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the Black Girl Nerds podcast. My name is Jamie. I am your host. Very excited to talk to you guys tonight with this guest. We have an actor who you know from many films, many TV shows. ER, if you were a fan of that show from back in the day, I was a huge stan for that show. Dr. Benton, and also he's been in films like Coming to America, and currently you can catch him in the new film Logan. We have Eriq La Salle on the Black Girl Nerds podcast. Eriq, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, absolutely. It's a pleasure.
And we have our co-hosts Caron and KB. Thank you, ladies, for coming on.
Thank you.
So, Eriq, you're starring in this new movie coming out soon called Logan, which is huge for us, starring Hugh Jackman. And in the film, you're an ally of Logan's, aka Wolverine. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship as well as your role in this movie?
We meet sort of just by happenstance, and he comes to my aid and my family. We're undergoing a bit of a crisis, and then we basically take them in. They're on the run when we encounter them, and so we take them in, and it's the role is part of just sort of the humanizing aspects of the film, because it's a very interesting take on the superhero genre, and it feels much more like a man who is on a journey, and it happens to be sort of the sunset of his journey, but it's a guy who happens to be a superhero, as opposed to the typical way that these films are handled, and so there's a lot of emotion in it, actually, surprisingly, and great. Of course, the action is great, but it's not. It's really not this over the top superhero film so much to me as it is a guy on this journey who, like I said, happens to be a superhero, and ends up doing a whole lot of stuff. So my family, that storyline really offers, I think, some sort of internal searching and some questions that he has that sort of ultimately challenges him to be more human. So that's pretty much the what the role represents. You'll have to see the film to understand how that all plays out.
So, and it sounds like it's got a lot of dramatic overtones to the story.
Yeah.
And you're no stranger to that, because many may not know this about you, but you're also an author, and you have a 3-book series called The Laws of Innocence, Laws of Depravity, and Laws of Wrath. So what led you to want to write books and this genre specifically?
Well, for me, it's all storytelling and just sort of variations of storytelling, whether it's acting, directing, producing, writing, and now whether you're writing screenplays or writing novels. For me, it's all the same. Ultimately, it's just a variation and a different way of telling stories, which is my addiction, and I think my gift and my calling, and something I'm very fortunate and blessed to have that as a talent. And so I always like exploring different ways of doing that same thing. And so a few years ago, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I just had this crazy idea that I wanted to jump into the novel world. And, it was definitely intimidating. And I think we come with all these, preconceptions that, who am I to write a novel? I'm not smart enough. I'm not, and, you jump in and you try to tell the best story that you can. And I knew I definitely lean towards the dramatic. I definitely lean more towards edgy. And so this genre, the thriller genre, afforded me that luxury to explore. One of my favorite films is the movie Seven. And, and so I wanted to create that world. I wanted to create a world like that, but inhabited with some different types of characters. And I wanted to. There's also a challenge for me in reading these books because I'm a big fan and reading them. John Sanford, and it's definitely been one of the major influences. And I actually ended up doing his main character in a movie. Once I played his main character. So that sort of introduced me to the genre. And so when I decided that I wanted to take a stab at it, I wanted to do something in the vein of the movie Seven, where it is an engrossing story, but there's also this interesting story that's being told. Because if you remember in Seven, he was sort of preaching a sermon with his kills. So it wasn't just this gratuitous violence. It was very violent. It's very dark and very edgy, but there are these interesting themes. And so I wanted to pursue that. And so I came up with Laws of Depravity, which was based on the fact that all of Jesus's disciples were brutally murdered. And so I came up with a serial killer who was killing clergymen in the same fashion that Jesus's disciples were murdered. And so, but doing it for a very specific reason. And so, he comes out every 10 years and he kills 12 clergy, which is, symbolic of the 12 disciples, even though there were technically more. So I just wanted to do something really different and dark. And so I got into this world, created some cool characters, one being African-American, one being Italian-Irish-American. They're the two partners. So you have that Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, but, a lot younger, sexier kind of version of that. And took it from there, and then that turned into the next one and the next, so I'm working on the next one right now. I'm about halfway through. So I want to do 2 more. And then the goal is to turn it into a film or television franchise. So that's also a big theme for me. That's something that I've been preaching for probably the last 20 years or so, which is, Black empowerment, and part of the reason that I started directing and producing is just taking more control of my career and taking more control of our stories and the types of things that you're trying to get done and the types of people you're trying to see get them done, and being, as a director, being in the room and being able to make the decision or at least have a voice in the decision-making process. Of, hey, why not try? Why not make the judge a woman? Why not make this person Asian? Why not make them Black? Why not sometimes it's not this overt racism or sexism. And there's plenty of that. Let's not let's not get that twisted. But sometimes it's not always that. It's just it's people going with what they're most comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And so when you have people that for years that are making these decisions, used to seeing white males doing all of these things, sometimes they don't think beyond that. And so sometimes just to be able to remind them and say, hey, you know what, this would be really interesting. I know maybe you were thinking a white male for this role or even a white female, but how about this? And sometimes they're like, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about that. So it's, it's a part of the empowerment. It's my empowerment tour. Let's just put it that way. It's my, it's a self-empowerment thing of creating. And right now we are in such a content-driven phase because this is the golden era of television. Television is amazing right now. And so as you have all of these different channels and outlets and so many opportunities, the one thing that will always be needed is content. Mm-hmm. So why not have us in positions of controlling that content and creating that content and directing it and producing it and so that's so that's something that I've been obsessed with for a while. And so at that point you just put your money where your mouth is and you say, let me overcome my insecurity or my intimidation of writing a book and let me get out there and let me see if I can. And if I can, then look at the position it could put me in. I look at I love J.K. Rowling's backstory, welfare mom who creates the biggest book franchise in history, and not from a monetary point of view, but just being able to create something that we own, and not just my thing. I'm just talking about collectively. So that's been a major thing, and that's just something that I've always been interested in, and so I've done it.
I have to take a moment because I have never seen my father fan out before, but he's probably more proud of me talking to you right now than he ever was at any point in my life. So my dad says hello.
Tell your father, hey, how are you?
You are his favorite actor, and he reminded me that how hard you fought for, as a black man on ER, to be seen loving a black woman or a woman of color on ER back then. Mm-hmm. So he still talks about that to this day. But my question to you is, as we talk about these different areas of your artistry and these different forms of content, how has expanding into those areas informed your work as an actor?
Well, it's cool because it is, they're all connected. I find that, for instance, when Logan came along, I haven't really been acting in quite a few years, so I'm rusty, self-admittedly, and so all of a sudden here's this big franchise. This, you're in this big Marvel movie that's, these things are huge. And so, to be in it, you draw from what you can. And so, I love acting. I'll always be an actor. But, my focus has been in the last few years much more on being a director. And I stayed very busy, and I'm very blessed to direct a lot of different projects. And so being in the midst of that, even when this opportunity came along, I was in the midst of this director's run, and I was, and all of a sudden it's just like, okay, you gotta leave that directing gig and you gotta go to New Orleans and start shooting this movie. And it was like, wow. So definitely a little rusty, but it the way that it affects me, first of all, it has made me a much more humble actor. Mm-hmm. Being a director, you understand, you have to be concerned with everything. As an actor, you're concerned with one thing, your role. As a director, you're concerned with everyone's role, everyone's wardrobe, everyone's makeup, everyone's hair, the lighting. There's just a gazillion things, and so it's made me more humble as an actor because you're not, as you know, as an actor, you might be hanging out in your trailer, and they say, "Hey, we need you on set. We need you on set," and you take your time. Well, when you're a director, when an actor does that, it drives you crazy. It's like, that 5 minutes, it adds up, you know what I mean? And before you know it, you've lost an hour, by doing that a few times a day with various actors. And so it makes me more, it's made me more responsible. It's made me more respectful and definitely more humble. It helps with my storytelling. Fortunately, when we were doing Logan, James Mangold, the director, knew that I was or am a director, and I don't know. He communicated with me. I felt a little differently, and I think he had I think he regarded me a certain way, and it was very subtle. So sometimes it was maybe shorthand. I think like sometimes he didn't feel he had to explain certain things as a director because I would look at him and nod like, I get it. I know why we're doing it this way. I know, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have, I get it. You don't have to go into detail. And so I was proud of that. I mean, that's one of those rare moments. It's nothing, super valuable, but it just speaks to who I am and where I am as an artist. And when you see another artist or you work with someone and they relate to you in that way, it makes you feel, definitely makes you feel special. Look, I think my acting influences my writing. My writing influences my acting. When I'm directing, I can talk to writers a certain way because I know the craft of writing. I know the language of writing. I definitely know the language of acting. So I have a reputation of being an actor's director. Because I know how to speak to them. I know their temperaments. I get it. I know when they're angry because they feel like they're not being heard because that's how I feel, so so they all complement each other and I love it. That was a great question, by the way. Thank you. Yeah.
Now my next question is it goes even deeper. Okay.
Oh, come on, bring it.
Did you ever really have a Jerry curl? And if so, what was it like your first time? And if not, does your soul glow without one?
Wow. You went. Your idea of going deeper. Okay. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that was a wig in the movie, and no, I have not had the pleasure or the misfortune of doing it. And my soul is just fine without it. So thank you.
Excellent answer.
Okay, well, let me see if I can potentially top that. It's KB here. So, I have been a huge fan of yours, obviously in Coming to America, but more so with ER. So just tell me about what initially drew you to the role of Dr. Benton. And did you know the type of impact that taking that role would have on your career?
Well, starting backwards, no, you never know. I've done good projects that had hype on them, that were good scripts that went nowhere. Ironically, I had done a medical show 2 years before ER with Dick Wolf, and we came on Thursday nights at 10 on CBS. It was called The Human Factor. We had a good cast, and it aired, I think, maybe 8 episodes, and it was gone. So you never know. A lot of times you think, oh my God, this is it, and it's not. You just really at that point you're trying to get a job. Really, I mean, I think people. I don't want to over romanticize any of this because I think a lot of times people have sort of these misconceptions about how this industry works. You know, the only thing you really have control over is, you know, what you will and won't do. Which is to say, you know, there are certain pieces that you just go, you know what, I find that a bit degrading. I find it a bit stupid. No, I'm not going to go there. That's really it. Other than that, it's real until you get to a certain level and you've achieved a certain level of success, and then you're sent all of these scripts and you're making all of these choices. But you got to realize, you know, 20 years ago, I was still a journeyman actor. And so, you know, getting a good script with a, you know, good role, that was it. You know, the thing that drew me to it was a job. It was you know, it was a, you know. Now, on top of that, I will say this, you know, I was completely surprised when I read my best friend, who is Michael Beach.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Love
yes,
him.
yes.
Hey, Michael.
Third
Beach.
watch. Oh,
Yes, and you know we've been friends. We've been best friends for over 30 years. And he was the one. I was actually doing another gig in Portland, and he was the one that told me about it at first. He says, "Hey, man, you know, everyone here in town is going in on this new show called ER." And at the time, he was actually the first choice. And so to play Benton, and one of the studio heads said, "Hey, well, you know, let's hold out and let's see if, you know, I want to see some more people." So I got the script, and he never told me the character's name. And so when I read the script, Michael Crichton and John Wells, I thought did something very cool. They didn't specify. They didn't write up. They didn't say African American. And so when I read the script, I just read it. I didn't know. And at that time, you got to realize 20 years ago, you were not getting these juicy African American roles. You were the best friend of the white guy, who would say a monologue, and then you would say two lines, and then he would say another monologue, and everything was about them. And so here was this character that I didn't know what I was reading, and I didn't know that Dr. Benton was black. So after I finished reading it, I called up Mike and I said, "Hey, you never did tell me who the character was." I was looking for something much, and this is sad to say, and I was looking for something less significant, quite honestly, because we had gotten used to that. I was looking for something like, oh, here's the black character. He's a smaller character. He's blah, blah, blah. I wasn't expecting anything as powerful and strong and articulate and gifted. I was not expecting that. So much so that I was confused. And so I said, "Hey, I don't know which role it was," because none of the characters were, "Oh, this is African American," whatever. I said, "But man, there was this great character, you know, Dr. Benton. He was the best thing in it." And he goes, "That's who it is." And I was like, "Get out of here," you know. So, you know, we played that game for a while, and then, you know, the rest is history. So, excuse me one second. Excuse me, just getting over a cold. So, you know, it's sad that the industry had at that point conditioned me to the point where you're like, oh, you know, not to expect that much, you know what I mean? So that even when it came, I missed it because at that time, I didn't dare dream that this was going to be an African American character. So, you know, he was like, "No, that's the role." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "This is the best role in the whole thing." You know what I mean? And at the very least, it was equal. It was equal to the other three white males in it, which I bet they weren't even classified, I don't think, as white. You know what I mean? So it was just cool. It was cool. It was a pleasant surprise. And so when you talk about what drew me to it, it was well written, flawed, He was very flawed, but his heart was in the right place. He wanted to save people. And so, the year before I had seen, I was a big fan of NYPD Blue. And Dennis Franz, who played Sifowitz, who was a raging racist and just a bad guy. But from an acting point of view, I just thought he was so courageous because he never apologized for his character. He never, like a lot of times actors, they kind of poke out because they always want to be looked upon as the good guy, and so sometimes they don't want to play these less than likable characters. And he never ever flinched from that. He played that character so well, and I would be angry with him, for just referring to us as the N-word, whatever, you know what I mean? And I said, if I ever get the chance to play a character that is that interesting and complex, I won't apologize. I want to play a character that I don't apologize. You don't always like them. You don't always, and so sure enough, a year later, Benton came along, and I think I actually ran into Dennis Franz at an event that year after ER, and I walked up to him and I said, "Thank you, because you gave me courage. Me watching you have that courage to do this character and not apologize made me want to do a character that was not so perfect and not apologize." So that was, you talk about the things that attracted me. It was all of those things.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Benton was my favorite character on the show. So, and I watched NYPD Blue as well. And so it was just, oh gosh, ER just had such great writing year after year. So, incredible. So you talked a little bit about, your work as an author and your work as a director and how they both really influence your work as an actor. So do you prefer one creative space or platform over the other? And what would you like to do next that you haven't done before?
I wouldn't say that I prefer one over the other. I feel I'm a better director than I am an actor. So I think we kind of gravitate towards what we feel we do best a little bit more. But at the same time, I got to go back and I got to be like, wow, what a blessing. What a blessing to be able to choose. I've been acting professionally for 30 years, and I'm still here. And so the good thing is this. I'm blessed enough that I don't have to choose. I don't have to say, I like this one better. I like them. I love them. I love them both. Obviously certain days and certain projects. I do feel this. I do. The only distinction between the two is every directing job that I get is a huge challenge, and I grow, and it's this interesting fight. It's an amazing fight that I learned from. I don't always feel that the roles that are available to me are always as challenging. And always as so. From that point of view, there's a slight difference, and it also feels that directing, in some weird way, is more colorblind, because it's just the bottom line is, can you do a good job with the show? And like I said, once you've established the type of reputation that I've established as a director of being a performance and an actor's director, people just want you on these shows. So so it's really cool to be that brother on set, calling all the shots. There are those things that, if we're really being honest, these are the the things that make it different. And so I love acting. I like this role in Logan a lot. But the roles that I get excited about are far and few in between, and particularly for not just me, but for African American men. Like there might be a white actor who doesn't have a whole lot under his belt, who hasn't been in the business as long, or hasn't, but he's probably going to be the first or second lead. You know what I mean? Or second or third lead, and that's very rare. Let's just say extremely rare for an African American. It does happen. I just worked with a young actor who was the second lead. They just discovered him on training day. Very little experience, and he ends up being the second lead on the show. So yes, it does happen. I'm just saying it's more rare. So it's harder for me to get super, super excited about all the acting roles, whereas as a director, I am super, super excited about, pretty much 99% of them. I mean, there's maybe only been one gig that I was like, but for the most part, I'm super excited about it. Obviously, as an author, I create my excitement because I go, hey, I want to take on this subject. And I'm really excited about exploring that. So that's sort of the hierarchy of my passions, of my 3 or 4 passions.
Wow. What a compelling interview. Eriq, thank you so much for just telling us everything from your history on ER to your role in Logan to your literary work and even answering that Soul Glow question. We really appreciate it. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you on the interwebs, and where can we find you on social media?
I'm on Facebook. I have a fan page on Facebook that we're pretty active with, and that's the Laws of Depravity fan page. And I'm on Twitter at Eriq La Salle 23. And I haven't made it to some of the other social media outlets, but but that's pretty much. And I like to try to reach out and respond. And I feel a little more comfortable with Twitter and Facebook. I'm not some of the other things, the Instagrams and all of those. And this is a really interesting month for me because on the 3rd, Logan opens. I've got a lot of directing. Ironically, happens in shows that I've directed months ago. Now seem to be a few of them are airing in March. So I've got there's a brand new show called Chicago Justice for Dick Wolf. So they start that tonight. I'm directing the 5th or 6th episode. So that's airing towards the end of March. I've got I directed a brand new show for BET called The Quad. I directed the season finale of that with Anika Rose, and that's airing as well in March, the end of March. I directed the season finale of Training Day, and that's airing, I believe, in March. And I directed another show called APB for Fox. So it's just coincidental. So I've got a lot of things happening in March. Maybe one of them or 2 of them spill over to April, but for the most part, this is it's a very busy month, and which I love, which I absolutely love. So I'm and like I said, with Twitter and Facebook, obviously we always put it out there so people can sort of follow what's going on, and I just think it's important for a lot of people to understand that, as much as I love acting, and as much as we as artists love things, we have to also strive for a certain level of empowerment. And so to see that transition, to be that transition for people to see, going from a successful acting career to a very successful in-demand director, and then coming back and then just saying, okay, now this month let's just do both. You know what I mean? It's an ego boost. It's definitely it's a good high. But I look at it as blessings, and I'm extremely appreciative. I love what I do and what I get to do, and so and then ultimately, like I said, the big thing that I'm working towards is creating, continually creating content, owning a show, owning a franchise, and calling those type of shots. And not a lot of us get to do it. Not a lot of us get to do it some of us get to do it, but I don't know that, and this is personal, I don't always think the standards are as great as I would like to see. So I'm proud of the standards that I always aspire to, and the standards that I live my career by, and the taste. I think I have pretty good taste. I think I've done some work that I'm very proud of, and I've taken some stands that I'm very proud of. And one of them is what your father referred to earlier. That was a huge thing, and so it's just cool. It's really cool to have all of that and have that kind of consciousness, because I think right now we're in a very dangerous place, and I think we'll be okay. But I think we're in a dangerous place because I'm a little more old school in the sense that when I came up, you had to have some type of talent. And talent is subjective. It doesn't mean that everyone likes what you do, and I don't like everything I do, so I don't expect others to like. Some people are, I'm not a fan of his. That's okay, But there was some talent, whereas now I think people can become famous. People are so stressed to be famous off of reality shows, and no real talent, no real distinguished talent. Well, even if you say, I don't like their talent, but I got to acknowledge they got talent. Now it's just kind of like, you get people, whatever, do a sex tape, get a little famous, embarrass yourself. And that's the thing. There's no embarrassment. There's nothing. So, and that's fine. I'm so not the high moral, cop here. People do what they do. But what I'm disputing is the level of talent that we're seeing. So when I say people might create content, but it's not the content that moves us forward as a people, that moves us forward, that elevates us. And that's one thing I really love about the directing and being an author is, the book I'm writing right now, I make sure that I've got some interesting females. That's very important to me, and that my women are as strong as my men in a very dark, gritty world. And so I love being able to do that. It's a big challenge, and then making sure that it feels accurate, that it, and so those are things that I think help move us forward and allow us to get better stories told. And so I don't always see that, but I am encouraged and I am energized by the possibilities, and I love, and I'm not one of those people that say, I don't like his work, I don't like her work. They're doing it. If people are doing it, fine. You know what I mean? There's always this controversy around Like Tyler Perry. And I've always said, look, hey, regardless of what you think of his work, whether you like it or not, he's doing it. If you don't like what he's doing, go do your version and do it better. It's that simple. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I live my life. Instead of me sitting around, publicly judging another brother or sister and what they do, I want to draw strength from it and say, hey, and even if you say, well, they're horrible, but look how much success they've achieved. Well, then go achieve that success by making it better, by making it good. And so that's what I try to do. I attempt to do that every time out. But being an author and being a content creator, it gives you that power and those possibilities. And that's what I'm most excited about. And that's, the big goal for me in creating this franchise is to have, 4 books that turn into, like I said, series, movie, whatever. But it is created by me. It is governed by me. It is produced, directed. It is, it is owned. It is, and then it starts really getting interesting. So that's what the future. And then, hey, get these pleasant surprises where something like Logan pops up. That wasn't on my radar. That wasn't something that I planned. And so, as long as you're in motion, and I think, to your listeners and people always, how do I do it? How do I get into it? Motion. It is motion. And it's knowledge. And it's like, as long as you're moving forward, and I mean really moving forward, and moving forward is learning and growing. As long as you're moving forward, then you're on the right path, because that's going to lead you somewhere. It's up to you to be intelligent about which direction you're going. So, excuse me, that's important. And that's something that I've seen and witnessed and for myself. And that's what Logan was a surprise. I'm just moving forward. And, these pleasant surprises, just like, obstacles, come along. So it's really, continuing to be disciplined and focused, inspired, and just moving forward, just moving forward. So that's my story.
And what a fantastic story that is. And thank you so much for coming on our show. And thank you for sharing your work with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I'm sorry about getting over this cold, my cough, but I definitely wanted to do this interview. I was looking forward to it, and it was a great interview.
Alicia Malone is a film reporter, TV host, writer, and all-around movie geek. You may have seen her as a guest, host, or correspondent on Fandango, CNN, Access Hollywood, AMC Theaters, Screen Junkies, IGN, Australia's Today Show, Studio 10, Movie Juice, Foxtel Movie Show, Event Cinemas, or New Zealand's Breakfast on TV1, to name just a few. Alicia has traveled the world to cover film festivals and award shows, and has interviewed nearly every movie star you could name.
So, finally getting to sit down with Miss Alicia Malone, who I'm very glad that you carved out the time to speak to me, as you have about 8 million jobs. I mean, let's see. Filmstruck, where you are a correspondent and host. You also work with Screen Junkies on all of their movie coverage as a host, and also you have a show on there and their Screen Junkies News. You also managed to work in Fandango, where you're also a host and correspondent, interviewed about every celebrity there is. Oh, and she's always on the red carpet at most award shows whenever that's possible. And right now, as if that's not enough going on, you're also writing a book. Do you sleep?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you sleep?
I don't sleep much, and that's why I'm talking to you from my car, because I feel like I live in my car in LA, just going from job to job. But I love what I do, so it doesn't feel like work, even though I have a million jobs.
Yeah. And for our folks at home, yeah, she is Australian. So
Bear with me.
In case y'all didn't catch it. But you picked up like 5 years ago and decided this is what you wanted to do. So tell us how you got into this whole thing of having all of these 8 million movie crazy jobs, and why you chose to really concentrate on films and independent films especially.
Well, I've always loved movies ever since I was really young, and my dad was hugely into film, so he would always educate me on directors like Alfred Hitchcock and Stanley Kubrick. So I grew up with a lot of classic films, and then my sisters were hugely into indie films. So I'd watch movies all the time, but I didn't really think of it as a possible job. I just knew I wanted to do something within TV or film. So I decided to try in TV first, just working behind the scenes. So after school, I didn't go to university. I just moved straight up to Sydney, which is kind of the big smoke of Australia. I was born in Canberra, which is the capital, but there's not much going on there. And it got to the point in Australia where I was working across all the major channels. I was doing reviews in magazines and on radio. And I realized it was about as far as I could go within Australia because there's such a small film industry there. So one day I decided just to quit everything, pack it all in and move to LA because I would see some of the film correspondents that we would use in Australia over here in LA, and I would see all the people they got to interview. And I thought, wouldn't that be great if I could do that? Moved over here, and then luckily after a couple of months of hustling for jobs back in Australia, one of those correspondents decided to move back to Sydney, and essentially she gave her job to me. And from there, it's just meeting people and getting to know people and moving my way around all the various places in America. I've been really lucky that I've had so many jobs. But I think by specializing in indie films, classic films, and supporting women in film, I have sort of made myself stand out from the pack. So that's always my big piece of advice to anyone out there who wants to do my job. Our job is just to carve yourself a niche and make yourself an expert in that niche.
I mean, at BGN, we can appreciate that niche because, I mean, we're a site built on basically, we didn't see an avenue for us in other places. So Jamie, thank God, created this space, which is my favorite place to be. And you're selling yourself short. I feel like you are, because you're so knowledgeable about movies in general, but especially about indie films, because every festival, so I met you mostly on the festival circuit because this is not the first time we've spoken. But you watch films. Like when you go to festivals, you are like, I'm still going to hit, 15 films in 3 days. And this is on top of your normal duties, which is not the way everybody does the film festival. Even the press folks, we don't all go about it like that. So
I know. I'm a huge nerd basically when it comes to films, and I get so excited at film festivals because suddenly there's all these movies, and I get upset if I don't get to see as many as I can. So I just fill my days with 5 movies, 6 movies, however many I could fit into a day, even if it means not sleeping, getting up early, skipping parties, just sitting in a dark room all day. To me, that's heaven, and I feel so lucky that I get to do it.
No, it's heaven for me too, as I appreciate your hustle more than anybody else's when it comes to the film festival, indie film, just doing what you do in general, because you recently just did the Golden Globes red carpet, right? You were doing a correspondent with that, sort of like the educator, as it were. So tell me a little bit about that.
The film expert, I guess you would say. So with Fandango, one of my jobs there is to go out on Fandango's behalf. If a network needs someone to come in and talk about a particular aspect of film, then they'll send me out on behalf of Fandango. So NBC, who was the host broadcaster of Golden Globes, they, for their pre-show on the red carpet, wanted a film expert to come in and just give some predictions. And basically, I was just there for when they didn't have any celebrity guests to talk to on the red carpet. They needed to fill time because it was a 3 or 4 hour live show. So the cool thing was for me to get all dressed up, get all made up, go on the red carpet at the Golden Globes and just appear on television for a minute to give my, nerdy predictions. And then I got to sit and watch all the stars come up for their interviews. And even though I've been doing this job for a long time, I still get so excited when I'm on the red carpet at an awards show. I got to do that with CNN last year at the Oscars. And it does just feel like a world away from where I grew up in Canberra, Australia, and something I never thought I would ever get to do. So I always pinch myself at doing that. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's the one I'm the most jelly of. I'm not going to lie. When I'm like, I know her. She's on the TV in a dress and she's interviewing people. And I freak out a little bit because I'm just like, this is amazing. So, but that's cool. And I know we joke about it, but I know it's from hard work. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people forget because maybe they see it as something close and similar. Like it takes a lot just to sit down to do an interview, let alone be prepared for 60 that are about to roll in all at once. So anyway.
Yeah, it is a lot of hard work. It looks much more glamorous than it is.
Yeah. So this is going to go out right before the Oscars that morning. Basically, BGN, we're doing an entire Oscar show. We're going to talk about, the things that we would cook during our Oscar party. And obviously, we're going to live tweet it. And, you mentioned about women in film because even before, we talk about Oscar So White, from where April Reign sort of started that campaign. Even before then, you did a TED Talk talking about women in film and representation in general in film. So this is something that you've always sort of, we all noticed the disparity, but started talking about it early. So what are you excited about for this year's Oscar as far as the change from before to now?
Yeah, I'm excited to see a little bit of change in terms of diversity when it comes to the nominees in the acting categories. And this is something that I am learning more about as I write my book. I'm doing a whole section on Oscars and that very much being Oscars So White. And it's kind of depressing and it represents the whole industry, I think, when you note down how long it has been between nominees for African American women, how there's only been one African American woman to win Best Lead Actress, and most of the nominations and wins come from Best Supporting Actress, and I think that speaks volumes about the type of roles that women of color are offered. And then, the numbers are worse when you look at actresses at Asian American actresses, Native American actresses. I mean, it's quite startling. But compared to last year, this year is much better with the first time ever that there are people of color represented in every single acting category. I mean, it shouldn't be much to ask when there's 4 categories, but it has taken a while to get to this point. And I'm so glad to see movies like Moonlight and Hidden Figures and Dev Patel in Lion be represented with the Oscar nominations. I think that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited as anyone else is because, I think we saw most of these at TIFF last year. And I remember then in September being like, okay, if, things hold, I feel like these films are going to make some waves later, and most of them did. But I still think it's like, unfortunately, I think Hollywood has like a quick memory. And so I don't want them to forget. I want them to still feel this push and this pressure basically to reflect the audience. So I'm not ready to let them off the hook. And I appreciate you mentioning Moonlight because I do know your favorite film is La La Land.
Well, actually, my favorite film of last year is still Moonlight. That's still my number one movie, even though I have seen La La Land 12 times.
12? 12.
Yeah, it was very personal. I mean, in terms of it being a story about someone moving to LA to follow her dreams and all the nods to classic musicals. I mean, it feels like it was a movie made personally for me. But when it comes to filmmaking and seeing something I've never seen before on screen, that's why Moonlight is my number one favorite film, because I just thought it was incredibly beautifully made. It's so subtle, so elegant, beautifully shot as well, and showing a character that we haven't seen enough on screen.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you, I think maybe an hour or two after I saw Moonlight, and I was still like, oh my God, it's amazing.
So amazing. It is, and I mean, I wish it would get more recognition than it probably will at the Oscars this year, but I'm glad that it's definitely in the conversation because it's a film that we particularly need right now, you know?
Yeah, no, and I agree. But I think you're right. It's the filmmaking, that's the thing. Like I wrote about it recently. I want Moonlight to win, but I don't want it to win because people are trying to, make a statement. Vote for what you think is the better film.
Yeah.
I know that's a crazy concept in Hollywood sometimes because it's
I know.
Such a popularity contest, but I mean, I'm going to hope for that.
Me too. And Barry Jenkins himself is such a film nerd. It's so great to talk to him because he really dives deep into foreign film and art house movies, and he's done his own Criterion Collection closet movie with video, which is where they get to go into the Criterion Collection closet, which I'm dying to go to, and pick out their favorite films to take home. And his, when you watch it on YouTube, you can just see how deep his knowledge and love of film is, and it's reflected in Moonlight, and so I love that.
Yeah, I one of the things I read in his story, which I loved, is that he actually left film school in the middle of it because he needed to learn more. Like he needed to go learn about lighting, and so he basically went and gave himself a course on all these Japanese and foreign films. And when you look at that and you look at the cinematography in Moonlight, it almost like is baffling to think this guy had to teach himself late in his career about lighting. It's so crazy when you look at the film.
I know, and so inspiring too when it came to, I saw the film at Telluride, and that's a film festival that Barry had been volunteering at for years, ripping tickets, doing Q&As on the stage, and submitting his films time and time again to Telluride and getting rejected. And finally, he has his movie at Telluride. It premieres there. It's such a perfect coming home story for him, full circle moment. And now with it being nominated for Best Picture, I think it's such a great achievement for him, and it's only the beginning for Barry.
Wow. Yeah, no, gosh, that's so great. I'm like, I just want to go hug him. I follow him on Twitter, and he just seems like a guy that you want to hang out with.
I know. I saw him at the LA Film Critics Awards, and I was so shy. I was just like, hi, Barry. And I waved, and then I ran away.
Yeah, because people think because you interview these people like your friends. I'm like, no, I am so awkward when I meet them.
Well, people I admire, like actors that I go, okay, they're famous, but I don't admire them in that way, then I'm fine. But in terms of filmmakers like that, I'm like, I get really shy and nervous because I just think they're brilliant.
Yeah, because it's such a hard gig. Speaking of which, though, so Oscars are tonight when this goes out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take you down like the top, 5 categories. What should win, what you want to win, and maybe, if the world was a perfect place. So let's start with Best Supporting Actor. Who do you think should win?
Well, my should win and will win are exactly the same for this category, and that's Mahershala Ali for Moonlight. I think he's an actor who has had such an incredible career and also an amazing year with both Hidden Figures and with Moonlight. And Moonlight, he had a small role, but such a huge impact in that movie. Yeah. I'm so glad that he is going to win. I'm putting it out there for Best Supporting Actor, and that people will finally know his name.
Wow. Yeah. In more ways than one. Yeah, that's true. So Best Supporting Actress should win.
Should win and will win, I think, are the same again for me, with Viola Davis in Fences. That's a movie that many people say, it's just like watching a play on the screen, but it's like watching a play with incredible actors. And how often do you get to actually do that for a bargain ticket price of the movie ticket? Yes. And Viola, in that role, she put everything into it. Her heart, soul. There's that scene where she's yelling and just everything is pouring out of her. Yeah. Sweats. snot, spit is just amazing.
Yeah.
And she's someone who time and time again steals these little scenes. She might just have one scene like she did in Doubt, and she just tears the screen apart. And she did it once again in Fences. That moment where she has that really powerful yelling match with Denzel Washington, I got chills.
Yeah.
So I think that she definitely deserves to win Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah, that one is the one where I was just so emotional, like just watching that. That felt like, just coming from a girl that, like, my parents, I'm a child of divorce, and there was a little bit too much of that hit close to home, but in the best way. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so beautiful. I would say I agree with you on both of yours should win for the supporting actors and actresses. The only one is I think it is a shame that Naomi Harris and Octavia Spencer are going up against Viola this year, because it is her year. She will win, but I thought both of those performances were brilliant, especially Naomi in Moonlight. I loved that performance that she gave, but there's only one winner, right?
There's only one winner, but Naomi was amazing. 3 days she shot that in, straight on the back of James Bond movie, and just to pull that out, and having to age her character, and she's the only one practically in the film that's there, I think, for all the three stories, and she's amazing.
Awesome. So Best Actor, who should win, who will win?
Should win. Yeah. This is a category that is fraught with, personal opinion, because Casey Affleck, like we've talked about, has had sexual harassment issues in the past, and that has really colored my feelings about him winning the Oscar. I think his performance is unbelievable because he portrays a man with grief in the way that you have to hold everything back. It's a very insular performance, subtle performance, because of everything that's happened and everything that's come to light about him in the past. I don't think he should win. So I'm going to say will win and should win is going to go to Denzel Washington for Fences. I think after the Screen Actors Guild Award, there has been a flood towards him, and he's already the African-American actor with the most amount of Oscars, and he'll continue that record.
Yeah.
Someone that can be both charismatic and terrifying in the blink of an eye. He is a force to be reckoned with, and the fact that he did this movie in this complex role and directed it as well, I think it deserves all the accolades.
I completely agree with both of those ones. Again, I saw Manchester and I thought it was a beautiful scene. But the one thing I would say is I just think Casey Affleck's lucky to have Michelle Williams as a scene partner, because his best scene is just so much more amplified by everything she gave in her best scene. And then so everything he does after that, I feel, is a push off of what she does in that scene when they have that conversation. So that's another one that I feel doesn't get talked about. Again, it's only one scene, so I don't think she should win off of just that, but it is a very powerful scene. Lead actress, I left this one off to the end because Amy Adams is not in the category, and in a perfect world she should be. But of the remaining 5, who do you think should win? Who do you think will win?
I agree that Amy Adams should be in this mix. I know it's blasphemy, but I would take off Meryl in this list, and I know, blasphemy, but I just think Amy did something incredible and very subtle. I think should win, this might surprise you, but I'm going to go with Isabelle Huppert for Elle, because that was such a complex role. We both saw this together at 8 a.m. at Fantastic Fest in Boston. And it's so powerful, a psychological drama where her character doesn't act the way you think she might, given what happened. It's a brutal, but she plays this perfectly, and it needed someone of her caliber to be able to pull this character off and make her believable, and you feel for her at the same time. You don't understand her, and she makes you angry. So for all of those reasons, I think Isabelle Huppert should win. And will win is Emma Stone for La La Land. And I do love Emma, and I think she was the perfect Mia for La La Land. And, you know, she does sing and she dances and she's the emotional center of the movie. There are a couple of scenes in La La Land that get me, and I rarely cry in movies because they feel so real when she says, I'm just not good enough for this.
Yeah.
You know, that makes me go, oh, it makes me cry. But if in my perfect world, it would be Isabelle Huppert. And you never know, she might sneak in there. What do you think?
I mean, so it's funny you mentioned that because, yeah, we saw it together, and that was my exact same thought. I just really thought that at that role, I don't know how you would even start it, really. Like, how do you start to make that role happen? But
yes.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it. I wrote it down in my review. I actually saw it again just so I could like remind myself when I was writing the review. And yeah, she gives a once in a lifetime performance. And let's be honest, like the revenge rape movie is not a subject you can make work with everything. So
no, it's a very hard one to pull off.
Yeah. So Best Picture, we'll go ahead and finish it out with this. I think we know where we both would stand, but let's see what you think. Because honestly, things are changing. Things are changing with Best Picture. It's evolving.
Yeah, things are changing. I mean, I think if you look at all the awards that have been previously won, then it's definitely pointing to the fact that La La Land will win. So I'm predicting La La Land will win. But you never know. The one that I think should win, which is Moonlight, could sneak in there. You just don't know which way it's going to go on Oscar night. And Moonlight, for all the reasons we talked about before, just it being like nothing else I've ever seen, an experience on film and a powerful movie. I think that's why Moonlight should win. But I think La La Land will win because it is that love letter to Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote about it today. I think the movie should get a lot of Oscars on Oscar night. I think it should win in a lot of the categories. There's just a few categories that I'm a little bit like, really?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about costumes. I mean, they're great, but you know.
Or screenplay. I just feel like Lonergan. Yeah, that's got to be Lonergan. Like if they win that, I'm gonna have a hard time with that one.
I know.
Anyway, so first of all, besides your book, is there anything you want to plug or keep folks on the eye out for?
Yeah, my book is really my main focus. That's all I've been doing at the moment. The title of the book is Backwards and in Heels, and that is a quote about Ginger Rogers, which says that she did everything that Fred Astaire did, but backwards and in heels. And I love that as a metaphor for women in film, that despite all the obstacles, there have been women who have done incredible things and made such fantastic careers and being trailblazers. So look out for that. That's going to be in stores from August if I get my act together and get it finished. And you can always follow me on Twitter at Alicia Malone, and that's kind of where I post everything.
Fabulous. And your YouTube channel. Don't forget that because I live for your festival updates because they're fabulous.
That's right.
And if
movies are my jam, is my YouTube channel.
Yes. If you just do YouTube Alicia Malone, it should pop up. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today. I will see you, I'm sure, on the red carpet somewhere.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm sure I'll see you at South by Southwest very soon.
Yes, I need to get a nap in first.
The Black Girl Nerds podcast is produced by Jamie Broadnax. Various episodes are edited by Jamie Broadnax, M.R. Daniel, and John Bauer. The opening theme song to our show is written and performed by Samus. Various instrumentals are performed by Samus, Sky Blue, and Shubzilla. You can find episodes of the Black Girl Nerds podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spreaker, and Spotify.
That was a HeadGum podcast.